Hi, my name's Tim Spears. I'm a fire inspector with the Colorado Springs Fire Department, and I'm here today to talk to you about holiday fire safety. So what we're going to discuss today in this video is we're going to talk about holiday decorations within the school building. A couple key things to keep in mind. There are a lot of things that we want to try to cover, but we also want to try to make sure that you have a fun and safe holiday. So the first thing that we're going to discuss is we're going to look at the Christmas tree here. Right now what we have is an artificial tree. Anytime we have artificial vegetation or anything like that similar to a Christmas tree or a plant, we want to make sure that it's flame retardant. We want to make sure that it meets the National Fire Protection Association NFPA 701. As we talk about and as we discuss Christmas trees, a lot of people want to know, can I have a natural cut Christmas tree? And the code does allow it, however it only allows it in particular buildings such as this with the sprinkler system. And so if we do have a natural cut Christmas tree, we want to remember to keep a couple key things in mind. We'll kind of demonstrate a couple things with this Christmas tree here. We want to make sure that we check this tree for dryness every day, because what happens is if we're not filling that base up with water, these Christmas trees can get dry. So we want to check it for brittleness, and by checking it for brittleness, what we want to do is we want to take the branch of the Christmas tree and we want to try to bend it, and if it breaks easily, then we know that we need to immediately remove that Christmas tree the tree from the school building. But also too, if we shake the tree branch and the needles fall on the floor, we want to make sure that we immediately remove it from the building, because a Christmas tree poses a great significant hazard to the building. It's important that we remove the Christmas tree if it does become dry and brittle. NIST, the National Institute for Science and Technology, has provided a video, and I really recommend that people at least try to seek that video out and watch that video. The video demonstrates how a Christmas tree about this size in a room about 100 square feet can be taken to what we call flashover. And what flashover is it's a transition within the fire. It's a phase of the fire. So we go from a fire in a room such as this Christmas tree to the room being on fire, everything in that room being on fire, from the carpet to the rest of the chairs, the furniture, and everything in that room has reached its ignition temperature. And it poses a very significant danger to the occupants in that room, and even the firefighters that come in to try to put that fire out. So if we notice that that tree gets dry and brittle, if we do have a natural cut Christmas tree, we want to make sure that we remove it from the building. As we talk about the natural cut Christmas trees and the artificial vegetation, as we see here with this Christmas tree and this wreath here, we want to ensure that we maintain those heat sources, those ignition sources away from those materials. During the Christmas season, we see a lot of candles. We see a lot of Christmas tree lights. And we want to make sure that if we're going to use these low voltage lights, that we're using the proper ones. And two, that we're making sure that we don't put any heat sources such as this candle, heat vents, things like that next to our artificial and our natural vegetation, because we want to ensure that we keep our heat and our fuel sources separate from each other. So as we talk about the Christmas lights, first of all, we want to ensure that our Christmas lights are UL listed. As we can see on this string of lights here, the UL tag is located right near the plug. So we want to ensure that these lights are UL listed. We also too want to make sure that we inspect the lights. A lot of times as we go to store these lights, they can get damaged and the electrical wiring can get frayed. And so as we put these on the Christmas tree, we want to ensure that these are not frayed, because this would be a good ignition source to that vegetation in the Christmas tree. So in addition to, so we want to make sure that it's UL listed and we inspect them. And then two, we want to make sure that these bulbs are intact. We want to ensure that this doesn't turn it out to be an ignition source for all our Christmas decorations. As we talk about the use of these extension cords, we want to make sure that we're not running them through the suspended ceiling tile, we're not running them through the door frame, and that we're not running them through the window. Also too, we want to ensure that we don't plug them into surge protectors. If we're going to use an extension cord for our Christmas lights, that we're only using them for temporary purposes, and that we're plugging them directly into the wall receptacle in the outlet. So it's important, don't run them through the door frame, don't run them through the suspended ceiling tile or a window, and also too, make sure that we plug them directly into the outlet. As we talk about decorations, it's important, there's a couple things that we need to keep in mind. We want to ensure that we're not blocking our exit doors. We want to make sure that we're not disguising our exit doors or our exit sign. As we see here, we've got this nice wrapped package here right in front of one of our exit doors. We too also have this garland that's been strung across our exit pathway here, and we have a wreath on the door. And another thing to keep in mind, we've got this exit sign right up here. We've definitely done a great job disguising it by placing the bow across the top of it. So as we're standing here, we want to keep in mind that we keep this area clear and unobstructed. We don't disguise this area, so that way people coming this way in the event of a fire can recognize this as an exit door, and that they can also see that exit sign. So that way they can see that pathway out of the building. Another thing to keep in mind as we're standing here, as we look at this garland, we see how it's draped across the door handle here. We want to ensure if we're going to place things on the corridor door, that we make sure that that door is still going to close and latch. These doors are vitally important within the area of fire protection. They do a great job compartmentalizing that fire, keeping that fire within the room. So it's important that if we do decorate these doors, as we've done here, that those doors close and latch. We see with these wreaths and the wreath hangers many times will wear on that door frame and that door, and that'll affect that door from closing and latching properly. To summarize, we want to ensure that we keep this garland and the wreath out of the door frame, and so that way it doesn't prevent that door from closing and latching properly. As we can see, we've got that garland right here on the doorknob, and we want to ensure that we don't decorate that doorknob so that way when people approach, they can see that doorknob and they can open that door up to be able to egress from the building safely. As we decorate, sometimes it gets tempting to place things like this, such as this ornament or some garland or a wreath or anything like that on sprinkler heads, on fire alarm system components such as our smoke detectors, our pull stations, or our horns and strobes. It's important that we keep these areas clear and unobstructed, because if we place these on a sprinkler head, we run the risk of setting off the sprinkler system, or if we place things on our smoke detectors, we run the risk of the smoke detector not operating properly, or if we disguise our fire extinguishers or our pull stations, we run the risk of people not seeing them. So as we decorate, like we discussed with the corridor door, we want to ensure that we keep those areas clear and unobstructed, so that way they're going to operate properly in case of a fire. Earlier we talked about making sure that we maintain our heat sources clear of our holiday decorations or our Christmas decorations. As we can see here, we have this candle. We shouldn't use candles because candles introduce that open flame into the building. We want to ensure that if we do use candles as an alternative, what we can do is we can use a flameless candle or a candle warmer. So it's always important that we maintain our heat sources clear of our decorations, and also too that we maintain it clear of any other combustible material that we would have. As we see here, we've got these papers on the desk. So remember, it's important that we keep our heat sources away from our decorations and that we don't use candles. Throughout this video, we've discussed various unsafe practices with holiday decorations. It's important that we keep in mind that we don't, again, block those exits. We make sure to keep our heat sources away from our decorations, so that way we can have a safe and joyous holiday season. And if you should have any questions in regards to anything that was shown on this video, please don't hesitate to contact the Colorado Springs Fire Department Division of the Fire Marshal.